In the past, everybody saw problems. Everybody's, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't
Yeah.
work. We would go to IT. Now they still have the same thing. Everybody has that, but now they can be part of the solution. And that is the fun part. And that's why some customers have over 65,000, 20,000 solutions built by people in the organization who have no clue about how to do that. Hundreds or thousands of these examples where people with zero skills would build that. With AI, it's only accelerating in, I would say, every industry, from retailers to professional services companies to manufacturing companies to energy companies, public sector companies. Everybody's looking at ways to kind of bring value to their job, reduce all the frustrations that they might have. And I think low code is a really good tool um, to do that.
Much of the discussions today focus on AI capabilities, right? Bigger models, faster outputs, smarter agents. But I think that's no longer where things break now. The technology has crossed a threshold, and what really hasn't kept up is how organizations are designed to absorb intelligence. This conversation today really matters because it reframes AI adoption as a systems and organizational design challenge, not just a tooling one. And I'm thrilled to be joined by Harald Wentein, Director for Low Code, Agentic AI and Automation at Microsoft's EMEA operations. He's been inside the spine of Microsoft, from Dynamics to Power Platform to Low Code and now Agentic AI. This is Microsoft's operating model evolving, and he's been at every inflection point carrying it forward. I had the pleasure of picking his brain on how this shift is changing the very fundamentals of our organizations are designed, how work is encoded across systems, and what they must do or change to really benefit from AI at scale. And this naturally leads to a very important question, which is what does the future of autonomous enterprises look like when intelligence is actually, embedded into their core operating capabilities? A question that we've been exploring for quite a while now. Our brilliant team at Code Ninja recently put out a research paper on how, on the rise of agentic AI in modern enterprises, how autonomy or autonomous systems are basically changing the organizational structures and how work is flowing across modern enterprises. If this conversation resonates, I deeply recommend giving it a read, and you can find the link to the paper in the comments below. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. Harold, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I was just amazed to see, the kind of journey you've had, the kind of places you've been. So, first of all, it's truly a pleasure to have you here on the podcast. Uh, I'll dive right in. Microsoft. 2 decades, ago, started managing and communications for Microsoft Dynamics. Then you moved into helping enterprises leverage the Power Platform, and now I guess most recently agentic AI and automation across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I have to say these are some of the strategically critical functions in a company. Looking back, first take us through that journey, okay, and what has really shaped your perspective on technology and human potential that I'd say has been amplified by that very technology.
That's a big question. I'm not sure if we've got enough time to cover all of that. Um, I mean, a little bit about my journey. I think Microsoft is it's a huge company. So Eve, I think you mentioned three roles, but I think in those 20 years, it probably changed as many times as there were years because it's an always on changing, fast pacing world. And I'm not just talking about Microsoft, but also talking about technology and the role it plays with people. And I would say the one thing that has shaped it for me is it's actually not the technology itself, but
Hmm,
what it can do for people and for organizations. Um,
absolutely.
and I think the best way to put it is that, and maybe some of my colleagues might say like, "What the hell is he saying?" But it's people use technology not because of the purpose of technology. technology is an enabler that um, that allows people and organizations to thrive. And I think that in those 20 years, the role that technology played has changed. I think, when I started, everything was still on prem. We went to the cloud. The cloud kind of made a lot of things possible. And it's that kind of change that really kind of helped me kind of develop myself. But I can also see that with our customers in the sense that technology can do way more now than it was able to do 20 years ago, even though already 20 years ago people were like amazed about what technology can do. And I think I would say that's the most fun part of my role, and of my journey. I think it's as much as a
Absolutely.
learning journey for our customers as it has been for me. So that's the fun part.
Yeah. And how would you describe, that transformation from where we saw the boom in cloud computing to where we have gotten, right now? How do you see that pace, 20 years ago and right now in 2025?
Well, I'll take an example which we all know. And if you take the mobile phone,
Yeah.
I think it took about, I don't know, a year, 2 years to get to 100 million people having a smartphone. When you look at AI today, it took about, I don't know, 3 days, 6 days before people kind of were starting to use AI at scale, like 100 million people were using it. And
Yeah.
so it's going faster and faster and faster. Like it took it took 3 years to have a new Windows version. Now we constantly have a new version without us even knowing it, because it's kind of just updating constantly, and it's changing and it's moving, and we get AI features. We're talking about days and weeks and no longer about years. And I
Yeah.
think that's for me the biggest change, and this in the speed at which we're kind of developing technology.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think talking about change, especially in this majestically different and unique realm of artificial intelligence, agentic AI is this new term, that everyone seemed to have um, uh, talking about, right? And I've seen, I've read about, I look into this, I saw that enterprises, they've very much relied on ERP tools and low-code platforms, to standardize work, increase efficiency. Now, with the advancements in AI, agentic AI, with the promises of acting very autonomously, reasoning and orchestrating across tasks, the landscape has shifted quite quickly, before we can even realize what's going on. How do you see this shift, from human directed tools to AI collaborators now, not just single AI, but collaborators in an AI system, changing the role of for knowledge workers?
I think AI is changing the world for everyone. Knowledge workers,
True,
students, managers, everybody. I don't
true.
think it's limited to knowledge workers. Um, and I also think that the human part of it will be still very, very critical going forward. However, how we will be important is changing. And I look at when you start at the kind of the early intake of AI, it was very much focused around personal productivity. How do I write
Mm.
emails faster? How do I translate things because I don't speak 100 languages? How do I,
Definitely.
how do I take notes while having a meeting? And even at that point today, we already see a huge increase in what AI can do for people. And that's where we are today. We're starting to use it for personal productivity. And when
Mm.
I mean starting, I really mean starting. We're
Yeah.
just seeing the tip of the iceberg, but there's so much more, and I'll just give a few examples. You know, of course, you probably have heard about ChatGPT and Copilot and those technologies, but it's very much on like, hey, I interact with my data, I interact with systems, but like on emails, on PowerPoint, on Excel, on and so what the shift that we're seeing now is that we're seeing that agentic power now coming into business processes
Yeah.
where people are starting to automate tasks and where people are starting to not just look at themselves as an individual, but they're starting to look at how does this influence my team? How does this influence my organization? And when you look at it from a customer service point of view, for example, how does it impact my customers? And that's very process driven. And then the next step is how do we go to that autonomous kind of approach where agents are working together with agents, where agents are connecting to your core systems like ERP and CRM. and that is not changing. I mean, no matter how you twist and turn it, an agent will not replace an ERP system. You will
Hmm.
still have an ERP system. You will still have a CRM system. It's just how you interact with that system that is changing, and the speed at which you interact is changing. So you still have a legislation that you need to follow. You still have a kind of a general ledger you need to kind of have in your system, because all the laws, the regulations, compliance, it still sits within that system. But the front end, how people will work in those systems, is changing. And so where we used to have like one screen where people would kind of type in information, hey, maybe that information will already be kind of filled in. But as a human, you will become kind of the validator of what is happening. So your task is, instead of being a very monotonous, repetitive tasks of inputting data, your job might become more important because you're validating what
Hmm.
AI, generative AI, agentic AI has done
Or can
partially.
do. Yeah.
And I think that's the shift we're seeing, is that the role that a human plays is shifting from I'm doing my task individually to, in the near future, I will actually have a team of agents that are is working for me. So everybody will be a team manager, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
But instead of having people, there might also still be people, but you also might have a team of agents that actually work together. How do you
Yeah.
validate? How do you kind of look at, hey, is this working correctly? Is this fast enough? Can I make changes to the process to make it even better? That's kind of the new role that humans will play. But to be very honest, that's not happening tomorrow. I think we
Yeah.
do need some time to kind of build that
Yeah.
out, get comfortable with that idea, make sure everything is safe and secure, and I think there's a few topics we might discuss as well. But it's not about, like, AI will not take away the human fact at all, but
Hmm.
it's changing the way that people will work and will interact with core systems like ERP and CRM.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, that part in there about humans validating, the way AI works, AI agents work, and that of course very much connects to the underlying topic of autonomy in these agentic systems, right? They are becoming more capable, but to make more decisions, right? But what do you think could be some unintended challenges, that especially organizations can encounter? Could it be in trust, governance, system design, that aren't usually immediately obvious?
I think with every new technology, there comes a number of challenges. I think whether you go from on-premise to the cloud, I think we've seen
Yeah.
a lot of the same questions actually come back around, where's my data? Who owns the data? What can happen with my data? How secure is my data? So data is a very important thing. But another thing is, how good is my data? And so if we often say garbage in, garbage out. If
Yeah.
you have a lot of data as an organization, but it is not, it is flawed. If you have 17 different versions of an HR document, your AI return will also be based on 17 different versions of an HR document. So how do you manage your data estate, not just from a security point of view, but also from a content point of view, is challenging. um, I think technology wise, I'm convinced that we can do a ton of what we want to do. But it's not because we've got a new technology today that everybody starts to use it. And I'll take an example of my parents, or my mom passed away, but my dad, he will not be the one who will embrace AI because he has no idea how to use it. And so when you look
Yeah.
at organizations where you've got people from 20 years old to 60 years old, or even older, or even younger, everybody has a different affinity to technology. So part of the challenge is change management.
Yeah.
How do we enable people to use it in the best possible way? So skilling, enablement, feeling comfortable. Besides the technology, besides the security, besides the data, these are all challenges that organizations will face or will have to face in the coming months and years to come.
Absolutely. And I've been, seen a lot of researchers reports about this, from McKinsey, Gartner, Deloitte, and there is a lot of talk around, how agents, when they coordinate across workflows, right? Especially the thing around micro delays or priority shifts between these agents. I felt like they can snowball into behaviors that aren't usually part of the design. Do you think that there could be any risk that early agentic systems develop, like subtle emergent patterns before teams can have the instrumentation to catch them?
I think yes, it's a possibility. I think that whenever we've worked with AI tools and we've asked them a question, sometimes we also wonder, is this the right answer to the question I just
Yeah,
asked? So I think that can also happen when these agents work. Um, but that's also where I think when we used to develop applications 10 years ago, the first thing we did was test them.
yeah,
We
yeah,
tested them and we tested them on, do they work on a browser? Do they work on a mobile phone? Do they work like when there's stress coming in? Do they work when we're getting offline? All of those testings, in a sense, will need to happen with agents as well. And of course, there will be AI backed systems that will do some testing. But I think that again, the human part of it is where we take a look at it from a non-technology point of view. We look at the value that it brings, the content that it brings, and we test. That's number one. Number two, when we test, we will see, yes, we will have issues coming from ABC. Why is that? What can we do about it? And
hmm,
I think the fun part with, and I'll bring it to low code and agents, because in a sense, agentic can also be low code. You don't need to develop. It is about that constant change. When we
yeah,
used to build an application and spent a year building it, everybody wanted to protect it because it cost a lot of money. Today, you can actually build it fast, you can change it fast, and it doesn't need to cost a lot of money. So I think there's a very big balance between the testing, the trying, the error, the change, and also what can we do to make sure that the answers or what it does is becoming more correct. So is your data set up correctly? Are we using predefined prompts to actually make the agents work in a better way that
yeah,
we have tested? Um, and do we still have people looking at the quality of it? And I think that's an important one. Is sometimes, and I'll take my daughter as an example. When people work for school, I'll take myself as an example. When we started to use Google to search things, and you would take the first answer in a Google search, there's a big chance it was not the right answer.
yeah,
With
yeah,
with why? Because the first four are sponsored, and actually you need to kind of be very critical in your thinking about,
yeah,
right, is this the right answer? Should I look further? What's the source? It doesn't change with agents. It doesn't change. So you still need to have a very critical look on what is the result that I'm getting. And so there's a lot of different techniques you can use to make it better, like use your own large language model versus the GPT model, uh, build it on specific data sets that is only owned by you, that is 100% certain. And so the more that you kind of tweak what you're doing, the better your results will be. But it's a journey. You don't go from 0 to 100% like we've never had in the
yeah,
past, not with cloud, not with on prem. There's always a learning curve. It's just a
absolutely.
little bit faster. And so we need to learn fast. And I think that's where I love my role, where with low code, you can do it fast. It's not
Hmm,
about doing something for 10 months and then saying, oh, damn, it didn't work. I can do it in days, in hours, in weeks, and then make changes and kind of move. And when you look at agentic, when you look at, the GPT model, it is low code. Nobody has to kind of write code anymore to actually start to use it. And so you can try fast, fail fast,
yeah,
change,
yeah,
change
yeah.
fast. And so I think that's an important one.
Yeah, and this actually, connects back to what you mentioned earlier regarding technology being an enabler, and how, right now it paves the way for the democratization of, technology in the hands of people, everyone having that. And developers, speaking about developers, historically they've spent most of their time actually writing, debugging the code. I mean, imagine 15 years back how the code used to be written and how the companies that were built on top of those codes Today, Agentic AI Copilot, they can now operate as these developers can now operate as forward deployed engineers. They can focus on design, they can focus on strategy, system or orchestration, the actual creative part of being part of how the transformation can unfold, and how they hold the key to it. What how do you see this transformation in practice right now, right there on the ground?
So I would say you're spot on the things you said, and I think it links also back to the change management. Like change management is something that can be like pushed down from the top, but it's also something that should come from within yourself. And
Yeah.
so when you're like a professional developer, you should ask yourself the question: do I still want to sit in a room, in a dark room, for like 10 hours per day and just write code, or do I want to change things? And I think then the question is, okay, how does AI help me in driving that change? And so I see two worlds at the moment, and I apologize in advance if I offend anybody, but I see
Mhm.
the ones who want to stick in the dark room, and they build amazing code and they build amazing things, but it will take them a lot of time. And in that same time that they've built one thing, other people might have built 20 things. And so
Yeah.
we've got I've got customers like on low code, but I also know that they work with pro developers. They've built over 65,000 solutions in 4.5 years.
Wow.
65,000. And so not all of the tools that were built are enterprise like for 200,000 people, but sometimes people just need a solution. And if you want to do that in the traditional way of developing, this will take you 20 years. It took us 20 years. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of
It is.
finding the balance between what is it that we still need to do that is really groundbreaking from the bottom up, we build everything ourselves, versus, hey, where can I kind of build building blocks? And I compare it to Lego, right? Nobody is building the blocks. Nobody's kind of
Yeah.
melting plastics at home. You take the blocks and you build your house. And that's kind of where AI is bringing us to. It's giving us the opportunity to build those blocks, which allows a lot more people to actually use those blocks and build their own house, shed, whatever it is that they want to build. And so we are on this kind of turning point where we will need both. Um, but I would love to see more pro developers actually embrace it to speed up kind of things that they can build, because there's a huge backlog with every company I talk to. Um, there's a huge backlog, but they're kind of afraid a little bit because they think, oh, it's going to cost me my job. They don't going to need pro developers. Actually, we do. And that's the point, is like we still do. And if you would embrace it, you're actually going to have much more impact in your organization. Um, so that's number one. That
Agreed.
was one
Yeah.
part of the answer. Second part of the answer is, if you do embrace it, you're going to free up time for yourself. And that time can be spent in a, I would say, better way in some cases, in the sense that
Mm.
everybody, and that includes you and me and a lot of people, we're kind of educated that if we have a problem, we want to fix it. I think with agentic now, with AI coming in, we've got the opportunity to take a step back and not just look at what is broken, but at the entire cycle. And so if you're a developer and you see an issue that you need to fix, but you've got actually more time, you have the chance to say, hey, Harold, but can you tell me more? What is the problem? Because maybe the fix you're building is not the fix you need, because the problem comes from somewhere else. And so having that conversation with people from the business, people who work in that process on a daily basis, if you have time to actually engage with them, I can guarantee that your solution will be better in the end. And so it's, how do you free up time for yourself to make sure that what you build has a bigger impact in the organization by working together with others? I think that's, I know it's a very philosophical answer,
Mm-hmm.
where you see that the value sits, and where
Yeah.
there's going to be a mentality shift needed
Yeah.
to achieve that.
And I think a shift in there's going to be a shift in the skill requirements as well, towards design, toward verification.
um I think yes, I think yes. And if I take the example of low code, sometimes it's not about writing code, but it's about, how do I prompt and maybe not the prompt to build, but the prompt to say, okay, I've got a problem. Can you explain it to me in more detail? That could be a prompt where AI gives you a solution that says, I didn't think of that. So skills are changing every day, from prompting to building blocks to agentic AI to autonomous agents. And I think that it's been the task of IT folks, of developers for the last 20, 30 years. I think that the challenge for all of us is that now it's happening so fast that we need an always on, constant, lifelong learning mentality, um, which is tough when you get a bit older. It doesn't go as fast anymore as when I was 20. I think that's where
Yeah. Yeah,
you need to kind of teach yourself to keep learning. I think that's the most important part. And
agreed.
skills that you learn today might not be there next year. Who knows? So
Yeah,
it's always learning. It doesn't stop.
absolutely. I think exactly. That is one key part of being a developer as well, being a developer or a non-developer as well. We spoke about low code platforms. You've already, I'm sure worked with hundreds of different businesses, bringing those business users into the creation process. With agentic AI, how do you see non-technical teams becoming true creators of solutions? How does this shape innovation in organization being shaped by those who are not really that technical savvy but can actually do it?
Well, so I think I'm a bit in a lucky position in the sense that even before AI, with low-code technology, we were already doing that. So I'm responsible for something called the Power Platform at Microsoft, which is a technology where people who are not technical can actually build solutions, from
Hmm.
Power BI to applications to automations. So we already have a global community of 58 million people every month that are using this. That was before AI. With AI, this is going to explode even faster because you might have heard in the past we talked about citizen developers. We're actually shifting a little bit because people who are not developers don't want to be called developers, and developers don't want other people to be called developers because they're not. So we're
Yeah,
actually, and you mentioned the word a few times, we're actually calling them more makers or creators or innovators.
yeah.
Um, because a lot of people, you and I, work every day, and there's probably 20 things we can put on a piece of paper that annoys us, as this doesn't go fast enough. This is where I don't have access to data. So with AI, and if your company allows it, I have to be, because there's still a lot of companies with questions and doubts. No, this will go faster. Last week, last week we had Ignite, which is a very big Microsoft event where we have
Mm.
that, where they
Yeah.
announce a lot of new things. So one of the things we announced was like vibe coding. So it's just you write in English, in German, in French, in whatever language, what you need, and then we actually have agents that are building this for you. You don't have to build the agents, but it's really about agentic AI helping you to transform your problem, your issues into a solution. And so I built a solution for myself when I started in my role 6 years ago. I built the same solution again. We can talk
Yeah.
later about what that solution is. It's a very personal thing.
Okay.
But 6 years ago, it took me 2 weeks and some help of some people who are a bit more tech savvy, because I needed to upload data. I wanted images, but you need an ID and blah blah blah. Now I did it myself in 2 hours, and that's kind of the shift that
Nice.
we're having. And so that kind of approach to enabling others to create, to make solutions, I think that is the real power of what AI is bringing us. And okay, it's a bit tacky, but our tagline as Microsoft is enable every
Yeah.
individual to achieve more. And
Yeah.
that's what AI is really, really allowing us to do. It's any person can now build an application, an automation, an agent, you name it. And that's the power of AI, that it's all of the questions on, hey, I want to fix something, doesn't go to IT, or doesn't have to go to IT anymore, who have a pile of things they need to do. People come up with their own ideas of how to fix it. um, IT can kind of monitor that
Yeah.
and then take the ones that are really important and then work with pro developers, with other teams, with CISOs to actually build that out for the entire organization. But it means that in the past, everybody saw problems. Everybody's, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't
Yeah.
work. They would go to IT. Now they still have the same thing. Everybody has that, but now they can be part of the solution. And that is the fun part. And that's why some customers have over 65,000, 20,000 solutions built by people in the organization who have no clue about how to do that. I think there's a really famous example of that we used a long time ago already, but it was Summit, and Summit was a security guard at London Heathrow.
Okay.
And every time when people would come past security, they have what was called, I think it was a kind of the book of languages, or I think it was called, where everything that they say, like, hey, take your laptop out and don't have water, and like all those security guidelines, they were written down in all the languages of the world because not everybody speaks English. And so Samit, who was a security officer, actually built a solution to have that in a digital way through a low code solution. We've got hundreds or thousands of these examples where people with zero skills would build that. With AI, it's only accelerating in, I would say, every industry, from retailers to professional services companies to manufacturing companies to energy companies, public sector companies. Everybody's looking at ways to kind of bring value to their job, reduce all the frustrations that they might have. And I think low code is a really good tool um, to do that.
Absolutely. And building upon that, I wanted to ask, like, I see that the value of low code is in its transparency, where the users can see the flow. But but the power of an agentic system, I feel like comes from its internal reasoning and opacity in self-orchestration. When you empower a citizen agent to build a solution via say natural language, that relies on non-transparent autonomous steps, do you think, are we democratizing solution creation, or simply democratizing the creation of an an inspectable technical depth that I feel like IT still has to govern and debug?
I think it's both. I think it's both. And I think it comes back to my previous comment in the sense that if everybody, like, Microsoft is a company of over 200,000 people, and of course a lot of people that work there are technically savvy, but I could take the UK mail, or the I think the Indian railroads, they've got over 1 billion people working there, or 1 million people, sorry, working there. If
Mhm.
everybody just kind of utters their, this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and it all gets piled up at IT, there's not I mean, even if you would do 10% of all the requests coming in, there's still 90% of the people that are going to be unhappy. And I think, so on one hand, yes, we're democratizing the building of solutions. Yes, 100%. Some of them are applications, some of them are agents, some of them were already built in the past. When you look at Excel files or Access databases or SharePoint lists, people are
Yeah.
very creative. Everybody's very creative. I mean, you are, I am. We solve
I
issues
mean,
that we
yeah.
have. And but at the same time, and then like going into that depth, IT doesn't always like it because they don't have visibility on what's happening. Like if somebody kind of, even today, people just take their credit card, they buy a solution online. It's not part of the security. There's no GDPR tracking. And so people are already building those solutions. So I would say, are we democratizing it? Yes, even more, but with a framework that allows for that kind of more in-depth technology visibility and transparency towards IT, um, and with agentic built in it, also with a learning mode in
Hmm.
it. And I'll take RPA as an example. RPA is a great solution if you have standardized processes that repeat themselves over and over again with a fixed set of data. You can do that. With bringing AI into that, your RPA, your system can learn. And that's the big shift, right? But it means that the learning doesn't always need to be at the person building, but you use that AI power to actually do even more without you actually really realizing it.
Yeah.
And then the third part is NIT has control, and that's an important one. In the past we used to talk about shadow IT. Those are all the creative solutions that people like me or you would build uh, when there was an issue. But then IT didn't know it was happening. Data was everywhere. There's no compliance. There's no structure. There's no governance of that. And that's what's coming a lot more in these kind of enterprise systems, whether it's low code or not, is that IT doesn't have to be the people building the solution, but
Mm.
they're the ones who want to have control. And so there's a very, very, very big part of that is that we're democratizing it with structure and with control and with learning. I think that's a very big shift that we see um, today. Um, but it starts with that democratization. It is about
Absolutely.
volume,
It has
speed.
to.
So, and one, I mean, one doesn't work without the other. If you don't have control and security, do you really want 20,000 people to build? If you
Yeah.
have 20,000 people building, you better have control and security. And so
Mm.
it does go hand in hand. And for me, it's also part of that kind of mentality shift that we need. It's not about the technology. We know the technology can do it, but it's about how much do you allow your people to do? What do you need to get there? And it's all about that control and kind of governance that you have underneath.
Absolutely. And speaking about governance and because of course for these systems to evolve, they need to have more autonomy, right? And I've consistently read about these researchers that shows that oftentimes the most I read that the most insidious risk is not really outright explicit failure from these agentic systems, but there is this term that has started coming up, which was called reasoning drift. So this is where an agent's decision, heuristics slowly shift over time, right, due to adaptive learning on noisy data, garbage data, often resulting in policy deviation, I'd say months later. Since we can't stop agents from adopting, we need them to adopt, we need them to evolve. How do you think that companies and organizations should design oversight, and I'm not just talking about human in the loop checkpoints, right, but actual structural governance that can detect and arrest these subtle systematic shifts?
Well, I think it also depends on the purpose of what it is that was built. So the way that we approach it from a local point of view is that we kind of start from something we call the environment strategy. Like if I'm building, if and I'll give me myself as an example. If I'm building a solution for myself within the Microsoft setup,
Hmm.
I only have certain rights, which means I won't be able to access data that is not allowed by people that I can see. I won't have access to my core systems out of the box. And so there's a whole lot of things that I'm not allowed to do, but I can be creative. But it also means that if something goes wrong with that application, automation, or agent, there's no mission critical failure in the organization. It also means that, and this I'm no I'm starting with the human aspect with IT control, but it does mean that I can be creative, I can build what I want, but I'm responsible for what I do. And
Yeah.
then it's what we call a green zone. Um,
Okay.
Within that green zone, all the rules have been determined by IT. Data loss prevention policies, um, data access policies, security groups, all of those things are defined. I don't know who set them up, but it's all defined. That's the role of IT to make sure they've got control. The second layer is what we call the amber zone. And that's where, where business and IT start to work more together.
Yeah.
But I'm still the owner, but IT is helping me to kind of connect to the right data, connect with security settings. And then you've got the third layer, which is the red zone, which is where you only have mission critical things. That's where you've got application lifecycle management, where you've got pipelines, where you've got all of those pro development tools to support you. And so, why am I explaining this? It's a long explanation because those different levels have also different levels of risk. And so, you will never be able to manage the risk of 65,000 solutions. But out of those 65,000, there might be 100 or 500 that are in that red zone. And
Yeah.
those are the ones that you want to control. So I think filtering based on the purpose and the risk is step number one. There's a setup that you can do, there's policies. And then we can back to if it is the one, if they are the ones that are mission critical, um, those are the ones that you want to look at on a regular basis. So you need a system where you get logging information, where you can track the answers, where you can validate the answers or whatever was happened. And so within Microsoft, for every tool that we have, there's always going to be a thumbs up and a thumbs down, which also means that as part of that change management, we get trainings in the organization that says, hey, you know what, if the answer was flawed or the solution was bad, give the feedback and tell them why. And so it becomes that kind of human technology interaction and collaboration, because we still need humans and the feedback
Yeah.
to improve on the
Yeah.
technology.
Exactly.
And so there's a whole it sounds easy. It isn't. It takes a little bit of effort. You need to kind of enable people and tell them why they do that. um, but I'll give an example. If I look at a customer service agent, right, and we know that a lot of companies that have high volumes of customers, they already work with AI bots, and then as a second layer, you've got humans that can kind of pick up.
Yeah.
When we talk about a human, we're okay that a human makes mistakes. And
Hmm.
so if a human person helps you and they're 80% correct, everybody's going to be happy.
Yeah.
And so the perception today is that if we would take a bot in the front end, everybody expects that bot to be 100%. But that's
Yeah.
not possible. It isn't
Yeah.
possible. It is
Yeah.
not possible today. So it's also part of our mentality, how we look at technology. We should also be happy about the fact that the bot is 80% correct. And probably it might be 90 or 94, but if we can kind of find one reason why it's flawed, oh, everybody will hear about it, about how bad
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's how it
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so, but what we sometimes forget is that when I have to call my internet provider, sometimes I was on the phone for 15 minutes listening to a tune before I actually spoke to a person.
Hmm.
And now
So
we can kind of reduce that 15 minutes to 1 minute and we chat with that bot. And so there's a value conversation, but it's also up to us to give feedback and to kind of say, hey, this is great, this is not great, this is where it can improve. So we're all becoming part of the solution instead of the one that's saying that everything is bad. And again, it's a mentality shift that it's not always easy, because it's
yeah.
easy to complain, but actually the value that we get, don't forget about that. I think that's the biggest message I would give.
Exactly.
Um, and if you work close with IT, you can actually monitor the results together. But it does require also critical thinking from the human who interacts with that agentic process.
Absolutely. And looking down the line 5 years, how do you see software creation, evolve with agentic AI or any other new technology? Uh, some dominant ways to solve problems, through natural language agents.
I think that the 5 years is at the moment is a long time. I,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah,
I think in 5 years the world will look different, um, but also um, it will look different. I think people will, first of all, people will want more solutions because they know how easy it's going to be. People will be part of building out the solution, um, and at the same time, the world might be changed, but at the same time, it will not be. I remember that when we went from on-premise to the cloud, everybody was screaming, this is going to cost so many jobs and all of this. Actually, it created more jobs.
yeah,
When you look at it, 10 years later, there's a lot more jobs in IT, in development, in sales, in marketing because of that move. And I think with AI and agentic AI, I think we're going to have that same thing. Will there be, and I'll take Microsoft as an example. Yes, we actually had a job loss of a lot of people before the summer because we changed the way the organization works. But if I look at the amount of people that work for Microsoft today, it's higher than
Yeah.
before we let go of those people. And it's easy for newspapers to write Microsoft let go of 10,000 people or 9,000 people. But when we hired 12,000, that's not news. And so it's I think AI is driving a shift in what we're doing. Our roles, our jobs will not be the same, but it will create a lot more opportunity for people to have jobs that don't exist yet today, for people to start their own organization where AI is a driving force. Um, in a lot of countries as well, to hire, and I'll quote between brackets, where we hire digital employees because we can't find real employees.
Yeah.
And if I look at maybe not 5 years, but 20 years down the road, I live in Belgium, and also a little bit in Germany. It's a long story. Um, the amount of people that retire is actually higher than the amount of people that is coming into the workspace, the people that are starting to work. We've got an aging population, so it is not easy to find good people, although there's a lot of people there, and but it's not easy. And so at a certain point we're going to need those digital employees to help us get our work done. um,
Absolutely.
and I think that's kind of, it gives us opportunities because it will allow us to scale where we used to have to find 5 or 10 new people. It would take us 6 months to find them, to hire them, to get them worked in. Now we can find digital employees. You won't be able to use them for everything. If you need to visit a store to sell
Yeah.
something or buy something, I don't think we'll have all our robots doing that for us.
Yeah. Not yet. Not just
We're,
yet.
we're not there yet. Um,
Yeah.
but I do think that it's about that human technology interaction and collaboration that is going to determine the next 5, 10, 20 years down the road.
Absolutely. And as an executive, yourself being in a position, in such a position where you talk to, business executives and business leaders, what kind of advice, you give them preparing for this agentic era? This like most important mindset or organization capability that they should be cultivating today, right now, to thrive in that era, where human AI collaboration should be driving innovation.
Enablement, enablement, enablement.
Enablement. Yeah.
It's, I mean, I think my daughter, for example, she was lucky that her school allowed her in high school to use ChatGPT or any other AI tool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they taught all of the students how to be critical about it and how to not just accept any answer, but read it, go through it, find the mistakes. And I think that it's easy to say, here's AI, now you do whatever you want. Great.
Mhm. Yeah.
We've seen that with ERP, with CRM. If you don't enable people, if you don't drive change management, if you don't give them the time to learn, it's never going to work, whether it's agentic or not, whether it's any technology that is just put on your desk and you have to use it, you will have a high risk of it not working. So enable the people, give them the time to learn. I think that's a very important one. And then there's one second one which I want to add, and I think it's something I also discuss with internally, is that often our customers see AI as a way to save money.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we take out costs? I get it. But also, I think the mentality also should be, how can we use it to create value? It's not the same. It's not the same. Um, and I'll take the example of customer service again. If you're happy when you bought something, the chance is higher that you might buy again in the future. There's nothing about a cost taking away. It's about actually we're investing in something that helps our customers thrive, be happy. I'm sure they'll be back. And so
Yes.
I think yes, AI can help you to reduce certain costs. I get that in time that you use on processes. But I think it's also, hey, what processes don't we have today that we should invest in? Somebody has to build it. We have to set it up. We might need the software that actually generates new revenue streams for us.
True.
How can AI take us from I'm a small company in Belgium to I'm now selling across the world? How can AI take us from we've got three products in our portfolio to actually instead of just making three and selling them, we're also distributing 500 other products that other kind of companies are building, but AI allows us to connect the dots and do that at scale. So cost saving, value, but on a platform of skilling the people that are driving it. I would say those would be my three biggest feedbacks to any organization that is thinking about AI today.
Absolutely. I think I agree. It has to comes down to these critical factors of enabling those people as well. Yeah, Harold.
If I may, one thing, it's
Yeah,
also it's also a message to individuals listening. Don't wait for somebody to give you the time to enable yourself. Take 10 minutes, listen to a podcast as a good example, but listen to a podcast, try something out, read something, teach yourself, learn yourself. It is the biggest asset
yeah,
that will go forward. Sometimes it's with AI, sometimes it's not. But I think helping yourself get that mental state of, I need to learn, and not in a sense that it kind of limits you, but just like, "Hey, I want to learn." I think it can come top down, but it should also go bottom up in any organizations where you raise your hand and say, "Hey, I want to learn something." I think it's I mean, if I'm hiring somebody, those are the people that intrigue me. The ones that say, "I want to learn something. I'm not perfect. I want to learn how to be better. I want to learn new skills." And I think no AI can take that away from you at any point. So
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that the conclusion here should be that the greatest risk will not be not figuring out how to use or misusing AI, but I feel like it would be how to adopt it strategically, so it paves the way. It enables the people and allows you to grow.
100%. We've got customers who say, in the past we always did ROI calculations. But actually, because of the fact that it's going so fast, if we would do that today, by the time we've done our ROI calculation, it would have been useless because the world changed in 6 months so much. So we just jump, we go, we train, and you can see that they are what we call the frontier companies. They're the ones who are
Yeah,
first, who kind of just say, "We're going to learn as we go." Um, and I know there's always a risk and a cost, and I get that, but it has to start in your head. Technology is look, it's amazing what technology can do.
exactly.
Let technology follow your head, not the other way around. I think it's
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a great takeaway to that. Harold, I think that concludes our conversation. Uh, I have to say, the way you've put it, it is such a, interesting and uh, I would say a very positive way to look at how technology should be utilized, how, human capabilities can be amplified through technology, through AI, through agentics, and whatever comes next, because that is the only way to move forward right now, especially the pace we're moving out right now. And that is, I think, the kind of mindset that we should be adopting as we head into this, I have to say, very uncharted waters as we go there. So yeah, I
I
think interesting to see what unfolds next.
and I might quote, if I may, a very large company, and you'll know who I'm talking about. But they've got a really nice slogan that says, "Just do it." But
Yeah,
it's very usable in the sense that try, test, fail, try again, just do it. I think I love that slogan for many ways,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it fits perfectly in this way as well.
It is the
So
most human way of saying it. You look back the hundreds of years, all the revolutions, industrial revolution, every revolution we've gone through, and that have brought us to this point. That was it. Exactly what you've explained. Try, test, fail, try
Yep,
again. You'll get there.
exactly.
Yeah.
And today it goes a bit faster, but I think that's the point. I think it's the point of life as well, but that's a philosophical would not be
We'll keep that for another episode.
exactly. Exactly.
All right, Harold, thank you so much for taking out the time for doing this. This has been, an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I would absolutely, love to have you again. I feel like there's so much to explore, and with you, I think we can dive into so many, a bazillion other topics as well. So again, thank you so much for taking out the time.
My pleasure. Thank
All right, thank you, Harold. Take care.